I'm going with Jalen Milroe, which might seem kind of like a cheating pick because he finished the season strong, but a lot of people forget he got benched after that Texas game and just had looked extremely tough. But in their last 7 games, he had 15 touchdown passes, just 3 picks, almost 1,700 yards. He also had 8 touchdowns on the ground. So, it's perhaps not the best thing to lose the greatest college football coach of all time, but if you're Jalen Milroe and you're looking around and you add Kalen DeBoer as your coach, I think that's a pretty darn good replacement considering what we saw him do with Michael Penix last year. And meanwhile, he is a more accurate passer and perhaps less mobile. I think that Kalen DeBoer will definitely be able, with his physicality, his strength, and his his speed and his arm strength, Kalen DeBoer will definitely be able to get more out of Jalen Milroe this year.
And that indelible moment produced in last season's Iron Bowl, if that can be topped, it will be a good year in Tuscaloosa. But for a lot of these guys, progression will reveal pro potential. Jordan, for those of us with vested interest in the pro game, who are some QBs in position to parlay, I guess, a strong college season into a spot on an NFL roster?
Yeah, this is a really fun quarterback class coming up. And not similar to last year, we don't have that true QB1 going into the season like we saw with Caleb Williams a season ago. But scouts that I talked to, the true quarterback 1 at the top going into the season is Georgia's Carson Beck. He has the prototypical size. He has everything that you want at the position. 3,900 passing yards a season ago, 24 touchdowns and only 6 interceptions. He's decisive, he's an in-rhythm passer, and he has a very quick release. His 2.3-second release time before the throw last year was tied for the fastest in the country. Now, without Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, and Marcus Rosemy-Jacksaint, who were his 3 top weapons a season ago, he has to be a catalyst for that Bulldogs offense this year. I'm really interested to see if he can come through and follow through with the hype. The second passer that I'm looking forward to watching this season is Colorado quarterback Shedeur Sanders, who had over 3,200 passing yards a season ago, 27 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He's just calm and a precise distributor. I love everything that he's able to do inside of the pocket. A 69% completion percentage in 2023, which was the 8th best mark in the FBS. Now, he did suffer an FBS high 52 sacks. He needs to learn to get the ball out quicker and just not taking as many chances as he did a season ago. So if he's able to improve on getting the ball out quicker, he has a chance to go in round 1. Now going to Texas with Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers, who's just a relaxed and effortless thrower. You see plenty of the deep balls that he's able to complete down the field. 22 touchdowns and 6 interceptions a season ago. I really like what he was able to show in spurts, but he does need to improve the trajectory on his deep passes. He does have some that just hang in the air way too long, but we've seen what Steve Sarkisian has been able to do when we're talking about developing quarterbacks. Tua Tagovailoa comes to mind, and we saw how the Miami Dolphins just invested in him. Quinn Ewers has a chance to turn out the same as well. Now moving over to Notre Dame with Riley Leonard, who comes over from Duke. He only played in 6 games a season ago. He suffered a gruesome ankle injury back a season ago, but I love what he was able to show in those games. I was there when he played against Clemson in the season opener, and I thought it was one of the best quarterback performances that I saw all season. Now, he does need to stay healthy now at Notre Dame, but the great thing for him is that he's now under LSU offensive coordinator Mike Denbrock, who we saw what he was able to do with Jayden Daniels. Maybe Riley Leonard could have that same type of catapult in his draft stock that we saw with Jayden Daniels that helped him become the number 2 overall pick this past season. Now, finishing up and going back to the SEC with quarterback Jalen Milroe of Alabama, who's easily the most electrifying and exciting of this draft class. You talk about A-plus level athlete, but he has a really good arm as well. 34 completions of 20-plus air yards a season ago, which was the 4th highest mark in the FBS. He is an outstanding deep passer, but he needs to get better in the short to intermediate areas, and that's what we saw, or we need to see from him this year. Now being in Kalen DeBoer's offense, he's going to get a chance to show what Michael Penix was able to do in that offense a season ago, and I think Jalen Milroe has a chance to really help his stock this season.
Yeah, Jordan, I think this is a great list, and honestly, a lot of already great players that have the potential to really skyrocket if a few things go their way. I think the 2 most interesting X factors here are with Carson Beck, because you mentioned the departure of a lot of his weapons that are going to be playing on Sundays this upcoming year. If Carson can show that he has still taken another step despite that, I think that really helps him. And then with Shedeur Sanders, if he can really eliminate some of those sacks, because some of them were on him, but if also we hear about this reformed offensive line with Colorado, if they're able to do that, I think Shedeur could also really skyrocket.
Harry, who of those 2 programs is better positioned to have a strong season between Miller Moss and Garrett Nussmeier?
I like Miller Moss. And, we can go into their weapons and all these types of things, but for me, there's one simple reason, and it seems a reason that a lot of people have not been into as of late, and it's Lincoln Riley. Look, I know the trendy thing has been to sort of criticize him for last season, and that's fine, but he is still the person that made Baker Mayfield and Kyler Murray into Heisman Trophy winners. Jalen Hurts was a runner-up under him. Obviously, we know what he did with Caleb Williams. So if there's a coach out there that's going to be able to get the most out of whatever quarterback you put in front of him, I think Lincoln Riley's the guy, so I'm going to go with Miller Moss.
I'm actually going to go the other way with this one. I'm going to go with Garrett Nussmeier just because I like the surrounding pieces at LSU. And I know they have a lot to replace losing 2 first-round picks in Brian Thomas Jr. and Malik Neighbors, but they return who I think are the 2 best offensive tackles, or 2 of the 3 best offensive tackles in the country in Will Campbell and then also Emory Jones Jr. And if there's one thing we know LSU is going to produce every year, it's wide receivers. They have some guys on the perimeter that I think are ready to break out this year. Kyron Lacey is one name to keep an eye on, but we know they're going to be able to produce receivers.
Silver lining for both these programs, both these guys played in bowls last season and both played well. Mac Brown did some Simone Biles gymnastics to find silver lining in trying to replace Drake May. He said at ACC Media Days he prefers not having hype at QB like he had with the Patriots' eventual number 3 overall pick. Brown hasn't said who this year's starter will be between Texas A&M transfer Max Johnson and Connor Harrell, though Brown did say the eventual starter would need these keys once he takes over in Chapel Hill.
Know the offense backwards and forwards so you can get us in the right play at the right time, get the ball out of your hands, and do not take a quarterback sack because we've had too many of those. It would be accuracy as a passer. It would be the ability to get the ball to the right guy. Don't just throw the deep ball if it's not there. Come down and get the ball to a really good player underneath. You don't get the big play every time, and take care of the ball. So those would be 5 of the maybe 7 things that we would ask them to do.
So guys, Harry, start with you. UNC quarterback competition. You got the A&M transfer Max Johnson. You have Connor Harrell, who played in the bowl game for the Tar Heels. What do you make of this QB competition now for a team that's trying to keep up with the conference of quarterbacks in the ACC?
Yeah, they like what they've gotten. Connor Harrell, he was the guy that was 24-1 in high school, won 2 state championships, actually has a really good relationship with the Tungavailoa family and has trained with Tua and Talia at times before. So they really like what they see in him. I think he's Mr. Right, but I think Max Johnson might be Mr. Right now because they also said how much they loved what they had seen out of him, obviously in the short time that he has been with them. But I think having a veteran there and seeing what he can do now, I think it's probably going to be the way that they go before they eventually go to Connor Harrell, who is a very talented player in his own right.
Just summing up that long answer from Mac Brown, just be stable. That's what he wants. He just wants stability with Carolina's offense. And Max Johnson isn't as talented of what they have had in years past with Sam Howell as well as Drake May. But we know with his experience, he's going to bring stability to the position while they do train Connor Harrell to be that guy of the future. That's what Max Johnson was able to do at Texas A&M. He was stable, even though he didn't put up those gaudy numbers. You know exactly what you're getting in him. So I think with him bringing that type of stability, that's what Mac Brown is going to want right now.
5 bowl berths in 5 seasons under Mac Brown at North Carolina. Jordan, for you, what is a barometer to define what success would be in 2024 in Chapel Hill?
Well, I think you want to get to 8 or 9 wins. That's always what Carolina wants to do. And even though they've had early round quarterbacks in years past, and yes, I know they didn't get the results that they did want, and I don't think they're going to be good as what they have had in years past. So I think getting in between that 7 to 9 win mark, I think that should be a fair target for them to get.
I think that's a fair target, and honestly, whoever they decide to have at quarterback, they are going to have the benefit of having one of the best running backs in all of college football in Amarian Hampton in that backfield. That is somebody that when we were doing our pre-production meetings for the Duke's Mayo Bowl last year was somebody that this staff was absolutely raving about. And you obviously saw the numbers that he put up last season. He's only going to get better this year. So I think Jordan's barometer there for UNC is attainable and realistic as well.
8 or 9 wins has been where North Carolina landed in 3 of the last 4 seasons. They haven't had a double-digit win campaign since back in 2015 under Larry Fedora. But again, the ACC quarterback play, maybe the conference of quarterbacks we might poke and prod at, but the numbers are there, the proof's in the pudding, and it all comes out in the 2024 season, the most important position in the sport. We broke it down pretty deep today.
Give me something.